Good evening, everyone. This is the Municipal Land Use Board meeting for the Borough of River Edge, Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. The time now is 7:30 p.m. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council chambers unavailability. This is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of the remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record on October 6, 2022, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you'd like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. With that, Marina, good evening. I'll turn you over to you to call the roll, please.
Good evening. Thank you. Mr. Mayor,
Present.
Mr. Caslin,
Here.
Ms. Boland is absent at the moment.
I just got a text from Ms. Boland. She's having the same issue that I had with the program updating on her computer, so she should be here shortly.
Okay, great. Mr. Merman,
Here.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Mr. Kellyan. Oh, he is here. Councilman Kanigo is absent at the moment. Mr. Gibbons is absent excused. Oh, there's Councilman Kanigo now, joining with audio. Mr. Esposito. And Mr. Bastide.
Here.
All right, and Mr. Behrens and Mr. Costa's signing in right now as well.
Okay, great.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was a minute late.
And Eileen's going to use her phone to call in, Marina, so if you see a cell number come, that's her.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Okay. All right. First agenda item this evening is the approval of the minutes from the board's meeting of January 25, 2023. Set of the minutes was circulated for review prior to this meeting. Open the floor to the board for comments, questions on those minutes.
Hi, this is Eileen.
Hey, Eileen.
Hello.
Hi, I couldn't get on the Zoom, so I decided to call in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Comments, questions from the board on the minutes for the January 25th meeting? Okay, there being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Okay.
Second from Mr. Cray.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstain? Okay,
And Mr. Caslin, Ms. Boland, and Mr. Esposito were absent at the meeting.
so all those eligible to vote, yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, next item on our agenda this evening is the memorialization of the resolution for Michael and Patrice Koth. This is 159 Tenney Avenue, River Edge, New Jersey, block 601, lot 9, granting a variance for minimum front yard setback. A draft of the resolution was circulated to the board prior this evening for review. Open the floor to comments or questions on this resolution. Oh. Okay, there being none, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bastide.
All right, and I'll only call those who are eligible to vote. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes,
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
All right, great. The motion passes.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda this evening is a completeness review. This is an application for Mr. Juan Nunez. The property is 830 Kindercamack Road, Suite B. This is lot 23 in block 212. This is a food handler's license to continue the existing use at the location for a pizzeria previously occupied by River Edge Pizza Kitchen. I see Mr. Barrett is in the
Good
audience.
evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman. I have with me tonight Mr. Nunez.
Good evening.
As you described, this is simply a change of ownership. There are no changes to the site. There is a cleanup, of course, of the store. There's no structural changes taking place within the store. So it truly is just a change of ownership. Everything's going to be the same as it was, except fresher.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. Ms. Steinle?
Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant's attorney and deemed them to be complete and sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Barron's.
And in reviewing the application materials, again, this is really just for a change in ownership. The materials include the application forms, site survey, and site plan. Typically for this type of use, we would ask for a floor plan, but because there's no changes being proposed, I think we could rely on any prior approvals there might have been, but we could certainly rely on testimony just to confirm that. But otherwise could be deemed complete.
Hey, Tom?
Okay,
Yes, Mr. Murphy.
The applicant submitted architectural drawings.
I'm not sure I have them. I stand corrected if that's the case, so I apologize if that's
Okay.
fact. So,
Those are the ones, Mr. Merman, dating back to 2004. Okay. And the original application made at that time. Mr. Costa was kind enough to provide me with a copy of those plans. I was unable to get them from the owner who had secured the approvals back in 2004. The architect, Mr. Callahan, did not have copies. But Mr. Costa in his vault had a set and was kind enough to provide them to me.
Okay, so there are plans of existing conditions.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the conditions are the same as shown on those plans,
Got it. Thank you.
except it's no longer a barber, it's a pizzeria. On those plans, you'll see a notation barber.
Barber, right.
Right. So
All right.
subsequent to that, there were changes made, all according to permit, as far as we know, since they operated for the last 19 years. So we think they did everything according to
Okay,
code.
okay, we can
Got
get into that further. Okay, any other questions, comments from the board on the submissions? Okay. There being none, I will open for a motion to approve completeness of the application.
motion to move the application forward.
Yeah, that we submitted everything.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Have a second?
Second.
I think I got Councilman Kanigo on the second.
All right, I'll do the roll. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes,
Ms. Boland,
yes,
we can hear, yep. Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
yes,
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes,
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
yes,
Mr. Bastide.
Yes.
And just for the record, only Mr. Esposito is seated to vote tonight as the first alternate. But the motion passes.
okay. Thank you, everyone. All right, we'll move right into the new business, and This is an application of Mr. Juan Nunez, 830 Kindercamack Road, Suite B. This is lot 23 and block 212. Application for a food handler's license to continue in existing use for a pizzeria at this location. Mr. Barrett, good evening once again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas J. Barrett for the applicant, who is with me tonight, Mr. Nunes.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay, Ms. Steinley, well, Mr. Barrett, will your client be giving testimony this evening?
Yes, he will.
Okay. So,
All right. Mr. Nunez, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay, and please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
okay. My name is Juan Alejandro Nunes. I live in 59 Stoke Street, Lodi, New Jersey, 07644.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Proceed. You can.
Thank you. So as we've described, it's simply a change of ownership of the River Edge Pizza. And Mr. Costa submitted a letter and had some questions. So I'm going to direct those to Mr. Nunes. And I think that at the conclusion, you'll see that simply what is occurring is a change of ownership. So one of Mr. Costa's questions was whether or not the pizzeria was in acceptable condition, or fact is that you've had to clean it and you've had to replace the floor, right?
Yes,
Because the tiles were cracked. The existing wall sign is going to remain, the outside sign, is going
yes,
to remain just as it is.
yes.
We did submit pictures as were requested. I sent them over to Mr. Alter this morning and tried to give you the direction that they faced to show the parking area in the back. Mr. Costa questioned whether or not the restaurant is compliant with ADA accessible design. It's my understanding in speaking to Mr. Callahan, who drew the original plans, that at the time of the renovation to the pizzeria is when those standards would have been applied, not now when there's simply a change of ownership, even though apparently there were some updates last year to those standards. What do you tend to be the operating hours of the store?
It'll be Monday through Saturday, 10 to 10, and Sunday, 11 to 9.
Okay, you don't intend any changes to the utilities that are servicing the premises?
Like changing, I
You
already
wanna
changed
first-
the name of the,
No, on the accounts, right?
Yeah.
But the utilities inside the store, you're not changing those?
no, even the Optimum is the same thing. Everything's the same.
Right.
Same phone
Pizza ovens
number.
are in the same place.
Same place,
The
everything,
rental
yeah,
systems there,
everything,
everything's the
everything.
same. Okay. Okay, and you don't intend to make any changes to the outside, to the parking area or anything
No,
else?
no.
Okay. And is the parking in the rear, is that, in your opinion, is that going to be sufficient for your business?
I think so, because she gave me 2 spots for my use, but she said in the daytime there's mostly nobody there.
Right,
There's only one tenant on top, and one tenant supposedly, if she rents, it's gonna be on the side. So I think she got like 5 spots, so she gave me 2.
Okay. And you also have the public parking area
Yes.
just to the north
Yes,
of the driveway,
yes,
between you and the liquor
in
store.
the liquor store, yes.
Right. Okay, Mr. Costa raised a question about the fact that a portion of the driveway and a portion of the parking area actually encroaches or extends over the property line onto property which is owned by the borough. I provided a copy of a license agreement that was executed somewhere, sometime. July of 2005, between the property owners and the borough, allowing for the non-exclusive license to use the portion of the lot 25 owned by the borough. And so that's on your left side of the driveway. And then as you drive down, picture number 3, which is taken with you back to Kinnicamack Road looking east. Those couple of spots there are actually on borough property, and that's covered within the license agreement.
Can we get these photos on the screen so we know that we're all looking at the same photo? Is that possible, Mr. Alter?
I might be able to pull them up. So we're talking about photo number 3.
Yes.
Okay, can you see?
Yes.
This? Let's see. So
So
this
the-
is photo 3.
Right, so the building is, as you can see on your right-hand side, the retaining wall is on your left. As the driveway descends in an easterly direction, it starts to encroach on the borough's property, which is again the subject matter of the license agreement. And those 2 spaces down at the bottom of the hill are entirely on the licensed area. And then photo number 5. Oh, thank you. I apologize
There
for
we
my
go.
lack of
That's right.
technological skills. That is actually the subject premises, and there are 2 spaces there. That's Mr. Nunez's car parked there this morning. And then the other 2 numbers 6 and 7 just continue the panorama, so to speak, heading in a southeasterly direction and then a southerly direction. This is the last one, which faces dead south. So that's the parking area in the back, and that's what existed back then and exists today. Let's see. So again, you don't intend to regrade the property or do any site improvements whatsoever. No. It's basically all that I have for Mr. Nunez.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barron's?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Barron's, board planner. I'll just offer that, again, as noted, it's just a change in ownership. There's no variance relief being requested. The one question I do have, the standard question about commercial vehicles. Will any delivery vehicles be stored on site overnight? Mr. Nunez?
No.
Okay. Will you be delivering? Will you have during the day, I guess, 1 or 2 delivery vehicles?
Most likely, yes.
Okay. I mean, I really don't have much more than that. I will, I guess, raise this as a question perhaps for Mr. Barrett. It seems like the rear of the site at one point in time had a solid fence. I don't know if it's something we would require of this applicant, but if a prior resolution required the property owner to have a solid fence around the rear, we might look to make sure that that is the case or should be the case moving forward. Again, not
I'd be
for your
happy to
client per se,
communicate
but-
that. I'd be happy to communicate that to the owner's attorney.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barron. Mr. Costa?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Mr. Mayor, good evening. Mr. Councilman, good evening. Everything that Mr. Barrett said, I actually made copies, found the file underneath a lot of boxes and delivered them in gym shorts to his office very early in the morning. But other than that, Mr. Mayor, I don't think you were on the council back then, but the owner of the property came in many years ago and signed the license agreement with the town. So what I did, and Ed can verify this, we asked Gita whether or not those payments were up to date. They need to pay $1,800 annually to the borough, which as of yesterday or the day before, all payments are in. So for them to use the borough property, the borough actually gets compensated for that use of property. Has nothing to do with this applicant, but we just wanted to make sure that was in effect. And then Mr. Barrett, I believe, actually found the actual executed copy. I only had, excuse me, a copy that was actually not executed at the time. But all payments are in place. And again, what Mr. Barron said earlier, it's a change of use. Greg in my office reviewed it very quickly, put some comments down. Other than the only thing I would say, maybe get a bag of mulch in the spring and just throw it in the street tree in front of you. That would be the only thing I could possibly say in this point. That would be it. But other than that, good luck. I hope the board passes it. Turn the ovens on and make some pizza.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. All right, at this point, open it up to the board for questions. Mr. Pfeffer, we'll start with you.
Not much, just curious about the license agreement, and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but is there an expiration on the license, or it's just self-renewing upon payment of the annual fee?
Right, it is, I'm sure that,
It can be terminated by the borough.
Right. by the borough, yeah. I'm sure it's in here somewhere, that the borough can terminate it.
Okay, and so basically it's year to year.
Correct.
Okay,
If they decide not to pay, the issue would be, then they have an issue with their tenants. The borough on the opposite side can terminate at any point.
thank you. I have no
That's
other.
my understanding. I don't want to play attorney tonight, but that's my understanding, and I believe that's what I read, and just in case the borough wants to do something with that property in the future.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Mr. Esposito.
I have no problem.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman.
Sorry, technologically challenged tonight, it seems. I'm glad to see River Edge Pizza Kitchen may survive, so no questions from me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Boland.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Arakelian.
I have no questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cray.
One, you may have already testified to this, but I didn't hear it. The note about the wall sign, there'll be no changes to the exterior signage, correct?
Yes.
That is correct. And in fact, I overlooked this. Mr. Nunez did mention to me that he'd like to have an open sign that would be displayed in the window. That would be 2 feet by 1 foot. So it'd be 2 square feet. And he said, because driving by, you can't really see, if he's in there, he's 10, 15 feet back from the door. Somebody might not even think they're open. So he would just like to have an open sign that, of course, would only be illuminated when he's there. So if we needed a variance for that, we would then, request that.
I just think, I think the ordinance doesn't allow for neon, but if you wanted to do like one of the
LED.
backlit signs, you'd probably be okay. Dick?
Aren't those signs LED lights rather than neon?
It could be LED.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. They can be LED. They
Okay.
yeah, and you don't want it to light up Kindercamack Road, just
No,
enough.
no, no, no. We
Tom,
got
I
the headlight
imagine,
for that.
I think Tom may be looking at the code right now, trying to get
That's Tom.
confirmation.
I'm looking very quickly.
Kind of very
I'll let you know in the
academic.
next couple of minutes if I come up with it.
All right, we'll come back to you, Tom.
We can always make the approval subject to the approval from our planner. That way everybody's happy.
Thank you.
No problem.
I think I was up to Mr. Busty.
Thanks. No questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. At last, certainly, but never least, Mr. Merman.
Clarification. I believe you said, the existing exterior sign is going to remain?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. The only other thing I have is a suggestion that when we have a motion, that we do recognize the existence of the licensing agreement. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, Ed, you I'm sorry, Mr. Barrett, you have a copy of the license agreement? Maybe we just want to, if Ed doesn't already have it, we might just want to include this with the package.
I believe he has it. I had submitted it, but if
Oh,
not,
okay.
I'll be happy to do it again.
Okay.
I have
that
a
way-
copy of it.
You have it, okay, all right. That it's clear that we have an agreement standing in place for that area, okay. Very good,
So I did find the portion of the Borough Code about the signs, and it says that no sign on or inside a window shall be greater than 2 feet in height or cover more than 20% of the square foot area of the window. And I don't think a 2 foot by 1 foot sign in the doorway would do that. So as long as it just complies with the Borough Code requirements on neon lights, flashing signs, things like that, I think that would be okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so it sounds like no variance is gonna be needed then.
Thank you.
It
Did
seems
Tom
to be, it seems to be the
confirm?
case. I would offer, for a grand opening, there's certain temporary signs that are also permitted if you wanted to
Right.
advertise that.
Okay, thank you.
I think we've gotten around to everyone at this point. At this point, I will take a motion to open to the public. Do we have anybody, Marina, in the audience?
Nope, but it's just Ms. Boland's phone.
Okay, in that case, then I think we'll move on. Any further comments or questions from the board before we open for a motion? Okay, at this point, I will look for a motion from the board on the application, please.
Let me take a shot at it, Mr. Chairman.
By all means, Mr. Merman.
I make a motion that for this application at 830 Kindercamack Road be approved, and for a food handler's license, and that the existing licensing agreement for parking and access be maintained, and the board notes that no variances are required for this application.
Okay,
Hope I got it all.
so
I will second Mr. Merman.
Okay, so we have a motion, Mr. Merman, and a second, Mr. Kelly.
All right. I'll do the roll. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Councilman Kinigo,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Mr. Bastide. Oh. I think he's muted, but we have him here.
Yes,
All
sorry.
right, there we go. That's all right. And the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, before the applicant leaves, I just wanted to ask Mr. Barron's a question. The applicant has an approval. Of course, he has to wait for the memorialization.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for him to get a temporary CO. So he's not sitting waiting for 2 or 4 weeks to reopen. Considering this is a current business that is just being taken over by a new owner. And if he's issued a TCO and something happens with the memorialization, of course, it can always be rescinded, but at least gives him an opportunity to get his business running instead of having to pay rent and sit on the sidelines. What are your thoughts on that, Tom?
I have no objections to it personally. Mr. Nunez, are you finished with all the interior work in terms of, needing building permits and all that? Are you ready to go at this point? Or is there work to be done?
Yeah, there wasn't anything that required an actual permit.
Okay, so he's ready to go. I would, Maria, I would say if there's a will, there's a way, or vice
Right,
versa.
there are two things that we still need to do.
Okay,
We need to, it's got to go to the health department. And then I believe
The fire department.
fire department needs to do an inspection as well. So obviously those would be done before he would open, even under a TCO. But I wanted to alert you to that fact.
okay. I think the board can request that the building department consider issuing a TCO, and then certainly if we're able to, we would be my thinking.
That would be most appreciated.
Thank you.
Can I make that motion?
I was gonna ask if someone would kindly make a motion on that.
I make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
And
Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
second the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Marina, when you're set.
All right, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Councilman Kinigo,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
and Mr. Bastide.
Yes,
All right, the motion passes.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Yep.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
quite welcome. Have a good night. Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Chair.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
All right,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Arkelian.
while I've been a big proponent of food licensing because of the fact that sometimes people get their permits, get everything in order, and then don't follow through on what they're told. So I think the food license ordinance, the way it is important for us to remain. However, I think under certain circumstances like this, where it's a existing business, where there's no real de minimis change to the building or anything else, maybe there can be a mechanism where they can get a 3 or 4 month TCO waiting for us to do the approval. I don't know what the other members of the board think, but I hate to see somebody come in and buy a business and then have to sit on the sidelines for a couple of months, especially if we have a busy schedule ahead. Folks?
Well, I think if I could offer, I think there's a few ways that we could maybe do it. Obviously, there's an interest in still having some sort of review. And right now we require site plan review. I don't know how we give a TCO ahead of a site plan approval, but there may be a separate type of review in the form of like a change in tenancy review or a tenant review that isn't necessarily a site plan review, if that makes sense. So the board or a subcommittee or some administrative agent would have some review of who's going in there, to fulfill the purposes of, reviewing the property conditions, et cetera. But it wouldn't necessarily require a full-blown site plan application, if that makes sense.
Rob?
Would that require an ordinance change?
I would have to look at the ordinance, or perhaps it could be just how the ordinance is interpreted. Well, to have the new review standard, then yeah, you would need an ordinance mechanism to do that. To change the review mechanism.
Mayor?
So I don't want to speak for the council or Councilman Kenigo, who's present, but I'm in favor of such an action. And I would want Marina to review it, and I would want this body to make a motion to send it to the council for the council to consider. I certainly think it's common sense and a good idea for my part, and I believe the council would feel similarly, but Councilman Kenigo's here and maybe he'd like to comment.
I'm all for common sense and streamlining things whenever possible, making things easier for our residents and our businesses, so I'm good.
So to that point, maybe it would be to advance this, maybe Tom and Marina sort of add to your agenda to
do this.
put together maybe just a brief outline of what we would need to do in order to recommend to the board, I'm sorry, to the Borough Council.
Okay,
Just certain parameters of which, we could, to Mr. Arkellyan's point, if there's, if a business comes in, it's continuing what had been an existing use and it's just merely a change of ownership and it's a continuation of the business, moving forward, there's a way to streamline things.
I guess, is it the case that in instances like this, that the board still wants review if it is just a change in ownership?
I think we should continue with what we have, or keep it similar. Again, only because if it's a change of ownership and if it's something more, and I'll use the strip mall down on Kindercamack Road, where the market used to be. They came back in, it was just a change of ownership, but they had their fence was a disaster and it wasn't fair to the neighbors. And we were able to facilitate and putting up a new fence because of that review. So I think the review is important, but I also would like to, especially these smaller businesses that really don't have major changes to any out exterior changes or anything, where they could just get in there and start operating them and then still come before us for the review and then get their approval finalized. But I just hate to see these people sitting on the sideline, especially again, if we get busy. I don't want to see them paying rent and not being able to afford to pay that rent.
So Jim, you're still thinking a full review of this body as opposed to a subcommittee?
Yeah, I think what we did tonight, it was quick, it was easy. And now we know, I had no idea there was a town license on that property before. So it's good that the board hears this stuff and knows what's going on. But at the end of the day, if he'd have been open 3 weeks ago, what would it have hurt him coming in now and we hearing the same thing? Rob?
Okay, but once he's in, and again, there's 1, 2, 3, there's at least 4 attorneys on the Hollywood Squares. Once they're in and they have a CO.
Temporary
It's
CO.
very difficult to then remove and evict.
But it would be a temporary CO.
And
So
again, I know the mayor, you want this and the councilman, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
No, we
For
want
no
to, we
reason.
want to do what's appropriate. We just, if.
No, and I think you're right. And I think Rob is right, actually. As you're saying it, it makes sense. Like the practical reality is once they're in, you can't get them out.
You can't get them out. And the whole reason I think, and again, it wasn't me, so I don't want to, but again, the whole reason this thing took place was because people weren't doing the right thing. And now whenever there's a change, they need to come before you. I don't know what happened with this gentleman, because normally it would be a very quick thing. It would be, enter into an agreement. I mean, the landlords, if anything, the landlords in town that own buildings should know this is the process. And if it needs to be a public notice or something to those people, and when they negotiate a new lease on a vacant space, they should notify the tenant accordingly. I mean, again, but whatever you guys decide, again, this is very limited what I have to do with anything with the borough. But I think you want checks and balances, and that's the reason you guys put that in place back then, was because people were taking advantage.
Maybe what we can do is figure out how to expedite the process for businesses such as this so that they come to the front of the line.
Right.
And we can get them in, sooner rather than later and make sure that this is quicker. This way it satisfies a little bit of Mr. Arkelian's concerns, but it also protects the town going forward.
Right. I mean, you want to be business friendly. The bottom line is, if the economy does get worse and you have more vacancies, obviously you don't want vacancies because that's not good for the town. So you need to, it's a balancing of a scale. I mean, that's the bottom line. And Mayor, but again,
Why don't we let Tom?
your
Rob,
wish is my
Marina-
command. Whatever you guys decide, I'll send me in that direction and we'll enforce it, whether it's
Well, how
Tom,
about we do
myself, the
this? How about we
building
do this? How about our professionals speak and come back with a recommendation at the next meeting? With all the concerns, weighed and balanced. And perhaps they will brainstorm a solution that protects the town and expedites the business owners' needs.
I agree 100%. Yep.
Yeah,
Mr.
Bruce-
Chairman?
Bruce, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that suggestion, but I would just want to put something on the table for Marina and Tom to think about, and maybe everyone else to think about. It might be a crazy idea, or it might be a helpful idea. It might be possible in situations like this where it's really just a change of ownership and there's no structural changes being proposed, that we can provide the new owners with some sort of affidavit that has a checklist where they can self-certify that it's only a change of ownership. There won't be any changes to the structure. Maybe 3 or 4 other things that they can check off and certify without coming before the board. And then if they, if they make a false statement, we could think about that there would be some penalties for that. And I realize that's something the council would have to adopt, but you can make it so that it's a sort of a self-certification process where they swear to the truth of these statements. And if they're lying and it turns out later that they're lying, then, there's penalties, there's fines, there's liability, whatever, sort of deterrence that can be built into that. So that's my suggestion.
I hear what you're saying, and that becomes an enforcement action.
Yeah.
After the fact. So we'll have to weigh that in and see, what impact that has on that aspect of things. But
Yeah,
I understand. what you-
It would be enforcement, but it would also be deterrent, if the penalties are severe enough.
Mhm.
I suggest we let Tom and Marina and maybe Rob work on this a little bit. They
Yep.
can even get Tom Sarlo involved if they have to discuss the different ways we can go about this. I don't want to give up our opportunity. Again, you heard tonight, the fence in the back is in disrepair. He's gonna now go to the landlord and tell him to fix it, or suggest that he fixes it because it was brought up at this meeting. That would have never been brought up had we had not, just used a checklist. So I think, again, I've been a big proponent of the food licensing process. We try to get everything through quick, but I'm just trying to find a way, a mechanism to get these people the relief they need until they can get to us so they can get their final approval. So Marina and Tom, and again, Rob, if you guys can figure something out, it's great. If we have to leave it the way it is, then we leave it the way it is, but I would like to see at least some collaboration to see if we can work on this together.
Okay, no problem.
If I can make one suggestion, maybe this is the easiest. Based on the agenda, Ed is on the upper right. Just have a separate column on the agenda, food handling licenses, and take them first. If it comes in, let them go to the head of the line. It shouldn't take that long for the most part.
That's probably a good solution, Mr. Costa, but we would still like for you and Marina and Tom to, discuss this. Ed, can you please add this to the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, I will. Just two things. Be aware some of these people come in as an LLC, so you have to be a little extra careful in how you treat them. And they're represented by attorneys if they do come in as an LLC.
Well, then in
also-
that case, Ed, just to make it simpler, why don't you make sure you're part of the group? So Rob, Tom, Ed, and Marina. And that way, I mean, Ed's making a great point, and I kind of cut him off, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure that because of his vast knowledge, that he would be included in that hour meeting that you might have before the next land use board meeting.
Just one more thing, the next meeting has already been canceled, which was due February 22nd because of a lack of agenda. So the next meeting we're going to have is the second Wednesday in March. I'll send out an email to everybody.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Anything further from anybody? New business, old business, nothing?
Mr.
All right.
Chair, you apt to take a motion for adjournment?
I was just about to ask for one, Mr. Arkelian, your mind reader.
Well, you know, great minds think alike, Chris. I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Arkelian. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second.
All right. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed, and
Good night, everybody. Have a great evening.
Good night, all.
Everyone,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.